War takes a toll on people physically, mentally, and emotionally. Not just for civilians whose worlds were completely destroyed suddenly, but also for those on the battlefield who have to deal with the sounds of explosives, seeing colleagues lose their lives, suffering permanent damage in their bodies. I could go on. It's understandable why they turn to hard drugs for comfort. However, in that moment, no one thinks about how much these drugs are going to cost them. Welcome to the Told You Another Story channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about how drugs became a problem during the Second World War. Throughout the war, Germans used a drug called Pervitin, a methamphetamine. It was introduced as an energy booster to get people through those dark times. The drug could provide higher energy for its user coupled with reduced dependency on food and sleep. These were good reasons why the drug became popular among the soldiers. However, Pervitin did something more for them psychologically. It boosted the confidence of its users, making them feel invincible, a quality soldiers need if they're going to thrive during the war. Between 1938 and 1941, Germany was swarming with billboards advertising the potency of the drug, and the situation of the country made it easy for the advertisement of Pervitin to be a huge success. The country was struggling to recover from the First World War, battling economic crises, and mobilizing for the Second World War, and people desperately needed something to cope with the national strain. Pervitin was cheaper than coffee, its effects were stronger, and they kicked in quicker, and it appeared completely harmless. In fact, it was sometimes mixed with chocolate. The entire country became fueled by this drug under the leadership of the Nazis, an administration that vowed to curb the use of hard drugs and alcohol. It is impossible to talk about the Second World War without mentioning one name: Adolf Hitler. Hitler rose to power on an anti-drug campaign, but ironically, drug use in Germany worsened during his time as dictator, especially after he became an addict himself. During his campaign, Hitler paraded himself as an ethically upright person, being a vegetarian and an advocate for the curbing of alcohol. Hitler's campaign was centered on advocating for purity of the mind, soul, and body, and this was one of the things that made him accepted by the public. Before he became a dictator, drug use was a problem in the country, and the country desperately needed a hero. Some parts of Germany were economically dependent on the production of drugs, specifically cocaine and heroin. By 1929, Berlin alone produced 200 tons of opiates, and Germany was responsible for almost half of the global morphine production. It was a bad look for the country. The people were tired of it, and it was on these wings that Hitler rose to power. Hitler was known to not take any substance that had an intoxicant in it, not even coffee, because of caffeine. He reportedly never smoked again after throwing a pack of cigarettes into the river at the end of the First World War, and when the Nazis came into power in 1933, they stayed true to their promise of curbing drug use. They combined their anti-drug efforts with incriminating those they did not like, especially the Jews. They also associated addicts with minority groups and passed very harsh laws. Under the reign of the Nazis, medical confidentiality was compromised. Doctors were made to report all narcotics prescriptions exceeding 2 weeks to the government. All these efforts led to a large-scale shift in the extent to which society depended on drugs, and the people had the Nazis to thank for that. However, this lasted until Hitler himself became introduced to illicit drugs, and before long, the entire country became plagued with the drug and its effects. Blitzkrieg, a recent best-selling book by Norman Ohler, tells us the extent of drug use during the Nazi regime. The book leaves no stone unturned, as it talks about how people were popping Pervitin like candy, whether it was the members of the public, members of the German armed forces, or Hitler himself. Before the drug was introduced to the German military, Dr. Otto Ranke tested it on 90 college students, and based on his results, he decided that the drug would be helpful for the soldiers on the war front. The drug was powerful enough to supply energy to the soldiers even if they went days without sleep. They were expected to be machines, and Pervitin alone was powerful enough to be their fuel. After seeing how effective the drug was, a stimulant decree was passed in April 1940. This decree issued over 35 million tablets of Pervitin and isopan, a slightly modified version to the Nazi soldiers in preparation for the invasion of France. The drugs were administered in daily rations of up to 2 times daily. However, in the book, Ohler pointed out that some soldiers took more and some less, but regardless, the drugs gave the soldiers the supernatural abilities they needed. Norman Ohler also looked into the rumored drug use among the Nazi officials, and it turns out it wasn't just a rumor. There was truth to it. He came across the medical records of Dr. Theodor Morell, a celebrity doctor in 20th century Germany and Hitler's personal physician. Morell was well known for his vitamins and energy shots, but underneath it all, he was a shady man who was quite ambitious and did anything to consult for the big shots. His dream came true in 1936 when he finally met Hitler. At that time, Heinrich Hoffmann, the official photographer for the Nazi Party, came down with an extreme case of gonorrhea. Hoffmann was a close friend of Hitler's, therefore he had to be treated by the best doctor out there. Dr. Theodor Morell was given the job, and after successfully treating Hoffmann, the doctor was invited for dinner as an appreciation. Hitler stopped by at the dinner, and after hearing the wonders Morell worked, he complained of a problem he had had for many years. In private, he confessed to the doctor that he suffered from stomach and intestinal pain, so severe that he could barely move at times. Morell prescribed a capsule of intestinal antibiotics, vitamins, and glucose, and with time Hitler's health improved significantly. This made Morell Hitler's favorite person, and as such, the doctor had access to Hitler's house, where he tended to his other health concerns. Their mutual dependent relationship lasted for more than 9 years, and it was then that Hitler became an addict. Dr. Morell's notes show that he injected the German dictator with a range of hard drugs almost daily. In the summer of 1943, Morell introduced Hitler to Eukodal, the German brand name for oxycodone. At that time, Germany and the Axis power wasn't doing very well in the war. This was very bad news, and so the Axis summoned a meeting. But there was a problem. Hitler had fallen terribly ill. However, missing the meeting was not an option, so Morell injected him with Eukodal mixed with cocaine to get him up and running. The drug worked like magic, and immediately after his first dose, Hitler ordered another dose. He went for the meeting completely energized, like he wasn't just bedridden. Just like that, Hitler became addicted to the Eukodal. Add that to the list of drugs he was on, which included barbiturates, bull semen, testosterone, amphetamines, and opiates. Although Hitler wasn't using Pervitin like the German armed forces, it was just one of the illicit substances he didn't try. Around the time that Pervitin became available to the public and military, a top health official began to investigate the drug as an intoxicant. It is true that the drug helped both civilians and soldiers get through the cruel reality of the war. However, it had side effects no one talked about. These included exhaustion, circulation problems, and heart pain. Therefore, the drug was finally banned in 1941. The fact that the drug became illegal had a bad effect on everyone, whether it was in the military or on the streets of Germany. The drug became scarce and the whole country had withdrawal symptoms, which caused the economy to hit rock bottom again. The army couldn't cope with this development, so they continued supplying the soldiers with the drug nonetheless. However, after enjoying the short-term benefits, the side effects began to kick in. Soldiers began to die from heart failure, military miscalculations, or suicide, and those that abstained from the drug suffered from nausea, hallucinations, anxiety, and depression. It wasn't long before the situation got out of hand, and Germany began to lose. Behind the scenes, the dictator, who was also an addict, was making terrible diplomatic decisions. In fact, Oehler concluded that Hitler's suicide in 1945 could have resulted from withdrawal due to Morell's inability to find drugs in the heat of the war. Just like that, Germany's secret weapon became the very instrument of their defeat in the Second World War. Thank you for watching this video. Hit us up in the comments section and give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos.